And then I'm going to pull in Andre really quickly. Andre, are you with us?
I am.
Great.
Now let's see how I can get all the video and stuff going. Here we go. Shall I start?
You may start at any time.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. It's February 12th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the full Conservation Commission. Um, we'll start out with a chair's report, which I have nothing to say other than we've got some materials from the subcommittee, and the regular chair, Michelle Lave, is out, and as vice chair, I will be chairing today. I see a hand up to start off with. Bruce, go ahead.
Just noting the drought declaration and Martin Freeman coming next meeting. We want to say those up for the audience, for the public.
That's great. We have in the next meeting, which will be 2 weeks from now, on the 26th, we'll have state deer biologist Martin Freeman come and talk to the commission and the public about deer hunting in the state, and about about deer hunting in the state. And you said, Bruce,
Well, I'll just read what's on the sheet. There is a drought declaration of that as of February 7th. We are in a significant level 2 drought. Many parts of the state got less water in January than they got in December. So we're okay. And the eastern parts have gone up to critical. So we need to remain vigilant.
All right, thanks. So I don't see Dave here. He's not in. So Aaron, this will go to you for now.
Okay.
We're going to go straight to the Land Management Subcommittee.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't have any updates as far as information from Dave or from Michelle. So let's go into the subcommittee update from Alex, and then we can talk about the land use applications.
Okay.
Alex?
So in the folder for the subcommittee are 2 documents, and we're giving to the commission our near final draft on land use applications. And that is not, there is an issue that remains open and unresolved. And so there are 2 documents. The issue has to do with limited liability when a fee is charged. And the law governing that, which is state law, is provided in the subcommittee folder. So the rule is, I should preface this by saying, the draft being given to you would charge a fee for weddings and filmmaking and require a donation for other uses of the land. So the law reads that if a landowner permits access to the property without charging a fee or any other charge, they have limited liability for injury and personal property damage while on their property. That changes if you charge a fee or some other charge. And once you charge, then that limited liability goes away. And you have exposure, you, the landowner, has exposure to liability for injury, including a minor, and loss of or damage to personal property. So the issue, which I wrote to Dave about, is, and I should preface also that we would require those being charged a fee to carry insurance suitable for the town, to cover the town. The town also has its own liability insurance. My question to Dave was, as commissioners and employees of the town, are we ourselves exposed to liability for injury and loss of personal property if we charge a fee? And this is not a light issue. So on some boards, people have been sued. And some people on boards carry liability insurance. I don't know if a normal umbrella policy for your house or something covers that. But anyways, this is an open issue. And there is a comment in the document from me speaking for the subcommittee about explaining what I just told you. So if you would, when you review the document and you write comments, we're specifically asking you, should we charge fees? Or should we just ask for a donation? Or just let people use the land free of charge? And I'll just recap by saying, if we ask for a donation, the law says, so long as the donation is voluntary, the limited liability sticks. Hence, that's why people ask for donations, I think, nonprofits and whatnot. So I just want to point out that what we're giving you is not settled. Everything but this issue is settled. Any questions?
I have a quick question. What was the answer that Dave gave you?
He would rather not go to his attorney right now and accumulate a bill. He would rather wait. I asked him to seek counsel on the issue, and he said he would rather wait until the whole document goes to the town attorney and ask for clarity on that issue as part of the entire review.
Makes sense. Okay, thanks. Aaron,
Just to clarify as well, the town does provide liability coverage for Conservation Commission members. So that was, I just want to make that clear. As far as reviewing individual sections, I think, we've before this document came to the Concom, the entire document had been reviewed by council, but now that it's been edited by Concom, we'll have to have the town attorney review it again before it goes to public hearing. So we're thinking, once all the sections that the commission is approving that we're going to be taking to public hearing already, we would have the town attorney review those in one pass, and then and before they come to a hearing with us, so that those issues were settled before it goes to a hearing.
yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense to not pay a whole lot of money for things that we're going to be changing as we move along. Jason,
what was the impetus behind talking about charging fees? I mean, we currently don't charge fees. So what was the thinking
Good
behind
question.
it?
Can I answer that?
yeah,
I don't know where it came from. It was in the document forever. When we started to look at it, I don't know who put it in there. It doesn't really matter, but it's not something that the subcommittee put in there since June.
Yeah, it was inserted, the suggestion for fees was inserted quite a while ago. And I think it was something that was suggested but never really vetted. It was just a comment. And one of the reasons why we created the subcommittee was to vet some of these comments so that we could sort of review them and determine the best path forward. We do get certain years we do get a lot of wedding applications. And so that was one reason, like, could this be something to generate revenue? And then there was also the situation with the filming of the movie on Mount Pollux, which was another major issue that came up that kind of disrupted public use of the property. And so that was another reason why fees had been suggested. But I think, again, it was an idea that needed to be sort of vetted. And I think we've been doing that and trying to figure out the best way to deal with it. So
Do we all think that that there should be fees to use the land? Is that something that everybody on the board feels?
I
Jason,
I can respond to that.
Yeah, hang on one sec. I think that's what we're discussing right now there, Jason. I frankly, if it's going to yeah, I don't see a whole lot of reason for it. But Alex, please.
Yeah, my hand keeps coming down after I put it up. I don't know why.
I-
Anyways, Jason, there was a lively discussion around fees, not just liability. But, so I want to come back to that. But first, there's never been a discussion that I know of about what the town covers for liability and would it be sufficient to protect you. We've never been told that. There's never been a discussion. I brought it up to Dave. I had to write to him 3 times to even get an acknowledgement and a reply. So, and I know he's been asked that same question. Cinda Jones brought it up, I think, in terms of when trails go across her property, if she's liable. And so it's an active question. With regard to discussion, the discussion has been all around. Where does the money go? What account does it go to? Dave told us it goes to the general fund. We asked, can there go to us a special fund where the money comes back for conservation land? They have a gift fund. So there's a whole question about the utility of and the use of the money. As far as filmmaking is concerned, they would be asked, if we had that again, they would be asked for a what's the word? A chunk of money to be put down, which they would forfeit if they didn't comply with the terms of the permit. And some people suggested that we needed the money in case there's cleanup required after an event. It got bandied about. It was not taken lightly. My personal feeling is I thought we could do away with a lot of issues if we did not charge. And the subcommittee didn't answer that question, and so it comes to you.
So we have several options, right? We have a deposit like what what Alex was just mentioning. Is that what you were referring to, Alex? Deposit?
Yeah, deposit, I've forgotten exactly
So-
what word is in the rule, but
Okay, yep.
I'll call it a deposit.
Mhm. So we have a
it's-
deposit and we have straight fees. And we've got requested donations. Is there something else that I'm missing? So if
Well,
we have,
the choice of the first choice is, should we charge a fee or just let people use the land for free? And if you charge, then somebody's got to handle the money. Somebody's, there's cost to that. Somebody suggested that we cover administrative costs, but the full administrative costs are high. They're not $10 or $50. It's much more than somebody's salary. So it's, to me, I go back to Jason's original question, why are we charging a fee? Why was it suggested? And I don't want to lead the witness, but personally, I think it creates more headaches than it resolves.
Alex, I agree with you. what about the rest of us? Rachel, Bruce, and Jason? I think Jason asked the question. I'm not sure he gave an opinion. Bruce?
I'm in favor of having a deposit so that we can recoup costs if they don't behave themselves. But the value of the fees and the donations and stuff like that does seem kind of not pointless, but it just causes more trouble than it fixes.
Thanks, Bruce. So we got a deposit on one hand and fee or no fee on the other hand. Rachel?
Yeah, I'm in favor of public spaces being free to members of the public. But I could see the argument if it became an issue of needing to have a deposit if people are not being responsible.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's another mechanism after the fact to recoup costs.
I think that would be like tickets and stuff or fines or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's always hard to do.
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, I would be more in favor of a deposit. I do lean more towards fines, just because if we're saying that a fee would be something of a headache and not worth the administrative costs, then a deposit also then it's like double the cost and you don't even actually get to keep the money. Right? So like somebody has to collect it and then somebody's got to give it back. Somebody's got to go out there, perform some sort of inspection to make sure they can get it back. Right? I'd be more in favor of like you fill out the land use application and it says on there, if you damage or something like this, you're going to be responsible for some sort of fine to recoup those costs of the cleanup.
Mhm.
And then that's, it's the person who fills out the application that's responsible for that, as opposed to, having to give back. And then I agree with Rachel. I think everybody here pays taxes and the taxes go towards this land and everything. And I think it should remain free.
Yeah. And in addition to the principles of it, there's also the administrative issues. And frankly, once something like that, if it were to get to the conservation or be put toward conservation, it's not going to be much.
Yeah.
I would wonder about the mechanism for the deposit, and maybe Erin's going to help answer that. Go ahead, Erin.
Yeah, so in other towns I've worked for, we've had them write a check to the town of Amherst, and I've just held the check and not done anything with it, just kept it locked in a drawer during the event, and then after the event, if everything, and again, the surety or bond would only be held in, I would say, if it was a large event like a filming or like, some substantive situation, not in, a 20-person wedding situation. But that is one solution where there's no real administrative process. You just hold the check, and then once the event is over, you return it to the person. And then if there is a problem, then you put it into, at that point, it would be deposited to deal with whatever the issue is. I think that's a little less administratively burdensome than having a fine, because in my experience with fines, you issue the fine, and if somebody doesn't pay it, then you're chasing them down, and then there's really no like sort of legal teeth behind it. It can just be dismissed in superior court. So I don't know. I think that I like the idea of the bond or the surety in a situation where it was like a substantial event. But I think for a normal event like a wedding or a small like a nature walk or something, I don't think that that's necessary.
Thanks, Erin. Jason, you had something else?
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up that we get land use applications, but we also never get land use applications and people still go out and use the land for whatever, photos, weddings, right? So if we're gonna look at charging fees, I think we also have to look at like what do we do if somebody doesn't actually fill out a land use application, pay the fee, and then still use the land for an event like this or something. I mean, because just went up to Mount Pollux, and there's always people up there taking photos and, family photos and things like that. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing any land use applications for this, come through. So it gets a lot of areas get used without land use applications. So if we're going to charge fees, then I also feel like we should be much more on top of that for people who are not filling out the land use application then and paying a fee because it's not fair.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that what I'm seeing is that we're mostly tending toward no fee. I'll raise my hand as being one of those. What about you guys? All right, so I think we're, and we are missing Alex, I think he disappeared on us.
Yeah, he sent me a message. His computer froze, so he had to restart.
Okay. And then, but then we have, so we can make a vote on that a little later, once Alex is here, but we also have then the question of a deposit type of thing. If it's something simple, like what Aaron's mentioning, I think it's worth doing that for events where there could be a significant cleanup type thing, and that would be up to us. So I think if we were to have something that says that we may charge or we may require a deposit for certain uses, and leaving it up to the commission on the application process. I think that would be good. Alex, we just did a little quick hand poll on who might who would favor not having fees. And I think and we got the four of us, so other than you, Alex, we're favoring no fees. And now we're talking about whether or not a deposit, we should require a deposit for some events, depending on the application itself. And I believe we should keep something, if it's a simple, straightforward type thing that Aaron mentioned, that's not burdensome. I think a deposit would be a good idea. But so that's where we are here. Where do we stand on deposits? I know, Jason, you weren't too keen on it. I would be for a deposit. Anyone else? Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, I'm fine with it if it doesn't cause, if it's just what Aaron mentioned, I'm fine with that as long as it doesn't cause an additional administrative burden.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. Anyone else? Bruce?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. All right. Shall we, so let's, shall we vote then on that portion of, on a deposit and fee, or Alex, where do you want to take this?
A vote would be handy, but I would appreciate if it would come to Aaron in comments because there may be other things that people want to comment on in the document. But we could decide that issue right now. But I don't want to bypass the opportunity for the commission to provide the subcommittee comments on the entire document.
Okay. All right. So those are, yeah. So then what you were looking for was comments so that you can incorporate them into the final draft. Is that what it is, Alex?
Yeah, but if you want to vote on this particular issue right now, fees, deposit, then it's decided and we know what we do with that subject in the draft. And then we'll look at comments on there may be other things that people feel strongly about.
Yeah. All right. Well, it doesn't matter to me, but I'm going to leave that up to you, Alex. Make your decision, and we'll go with that. Vote versus no vote on this.
Aaron, what would you advise here?
I would recommend a vote on, I would recommend a vote to confirm that the commission is not going to be asking for fees for land use applications, and that the commission on a case-by-case basis would consider deposit based on the size of the event. And then we can do a motion to that effect, and then we'll wait for comment on the remainder of the document.
Yeah. Just so commissioners are aware, there is a provision in there that an applicant's prior behavior and compliance will be taken into consideration. So you'll see the entire document when you read it. If Aaron thinks we should have a vote, then let's do that.
All right, we're looking for a motion then.
I'll try to spell it out and we'll do the best we can with it. So I move that the document not include the use of fees, and that it should, on a case-by-case basis, the commission can require a deposit. And I'm not sure, we may need to clean up the language, but that's the sentiment as I understand.
Great. Bruce on a motion. Anyone on a second?
One second.
Alex on a second. Bruce,
I,
Alex,
Aye.
Rachel,
I,
Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
Great.
All right.
So comments are due on the 21st. It's a week from Friday. If you'd look over the remainder of the document and let us know if you have any thoughts. It's a short document, it's not very long. But there'll be a lot of changes, right, based on this vote. You'll see stuff in there about how a donation is configured. So just for clarity, I'm not sure that Bruce's motion deals with donations. So
Did
when
not.
it did not deal with donations. So when you comment, look at what we required for donations for nonprofit organizations and comment on that.
Sure.
But I'm the one, to me, the big benefit of not charging a fee is we have limited liability.
Yeah. And I I think we've kind of touched on this in the past, but for us to actually require a donation is basically charging a fee.
No, it has to be
So-
voluntary.
Right. So I see no issues with, having some kind of wording where, voluntary fees for use, on applications would be welcome or something like that. But anyway, we'll leave that.
Yeah,
we'll
look,
leave the comments.
there's
Whatever.
kind of a crazy way to figure out what the donation would be, and I think of what's proposed is 20% of the anticipated take.
Yeah. Can I stop you for a second? We're just not going to do that. Meaning I don't think that we should do that. And so if we don't have a donation fee or a fee schedule for a use fee schedule, I think it simplifies things quite a bit.
Sure does.
I think I've heard the. All right, so
And everyone looks kind of glum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do we have any other land use updates, Alex?
No, that's it. I'm sorry it took so long.
No? Well, thank you for that. Aaron, we have 3 land use applications.
Yes. So the first is a something that's actually already taken place. This was a request from a researcher at UMass to do GPR on Puffer's Pond. This was a couple weeks ago, and the request came in between meetings when we had such a thick ice on Puffer's Pond, and they're basically looking at the ice, and they weren't taking any samples. They were just running GPR on the pond to, I think, looking at the depth of the ice. And this is something that they've done before. So this was handled as an administrative approval. It was them just going out and doing GPR on the ice surface. It came in between meetings. So this would be a good example of those situations where something comes in between meetings and staff said it would be okay because we didn't think that there was any sort of impact that was associated with the request. So just wanted to share that with the commission that there was just a verbal approval granted for them to do that. And then we did get 2 additional land use applications, and I'm a little unfortunately I wasn't able to get guidance from Dave on these, and I know that these are events that are already lined up. They're collaboration between the recreation department and the Hitchcock Center, I believe, for some nature walks and some Winterfest related activities. So my recommendation on these is for the commission to approve them, subject to Dave Zomek's review and approval, because there was some questions that Dave had about one of the events and whether it was appropriate to take place on the conservation land. And he wanted to discuss that with the director or with the organizer of the event. So that would be my recommendation. Dave's not here, and I don't really feel confident telling the commission to just outright approve it without Dave having some say, but I know that the events are planned for between now and the next meeting, so I don't want to also prevent the events from happening, if that makes sense.
Okay. Can you just give us a quick rundown on the Wentworth one and then a quick rundown on the Plum Springs?
Yeah, so the Wentworth one, I believe they're doing a archery program, and that is the one that I, really wanted to talk to Dave, have Dave have a little input on. I think we needed a little more information relative to like what exactly the archery equipment was, where it was being set up. I think the concern is like if there's archery instruction happening and, off-leash dogs are running through it, or, we just want to make sure that what they're doing is going to be safe in the location of where they're proposing it. But we don't have enough information because we haven't had a chance to meet with the applicant yet, to make that determination. And there was some suggestion that there might be some other more appropriate recreation areas where it could happen, with less potential user conflicts. So those are the details that I'd like to sort of leave open-ended for Dave to kind of work with the applicant to settle out. The other are, I believe, and there's we also got another series of so that the Plum Springs, I believe, was a walk, just like a nature walk, if I'm remembering it
yes.
correctly. We also got another series of nature walk ones, which are these Little Bear walks, which are a Winterfest event. These ones are not in your packet because they came in really last minute before the meeting tonight, but they're a series of Hitchcock Center nature walks that are being done in conjunction with the recreation department. And those may happen in between now and the next meeting and be one of those sort of administrative situations where we're just talking it through with the applicant to, again, bathroom accessibility. These are some of the questions that come up. There's, groups of kids out there, and we just want to make sure that there's, if there's any little issues that need to be ironed out before they're just given a green light, I guess.
Okay, great, thanks. Alex, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question about Wentworth Farm. They say they need 13 cars. By the way, I only saw 3 land use applications.
Right. There was several additional ones, but they didn't make it in the packet because they came in.
Okay, so I'll
Right.
cover that. I'll cover that second if I can. But I had a question about parking. In one of the events for, I've forgotten where that was, they want 12 cars. I don't know, but on Wentworth Farm, there's 2 places where they can park. One in the entrance to Amherst Woods, and the other is where the jump off bridge is. And is there on
On Stanley Street, there's adequate parking, yeah. There's 2 parking lots there.
Yeah, but on the other one, what is that, Farm Road or
Old Farm.
Old Farm Road, there isn't room for 13 or 12 cars.
Yeah, I think they'd have to park on the Stanley Street side.
And then the other thing I was gonna say is in the land use application rule that you're gonna review, there's a provision that Dave wanted where these things have to come in 30 days prior to the event
Right,
to prevent this, what just happened with Aaron,
right.
where people, hand her something hours before this meeting. And Dave and Aaron had email dialogue about that. And she wanted the provision, she wanted the ability to okay some things. And Dave said, no, I want them to come in 30 days ahead of time to manage staff time. And so there is a provision in there that under rare circumstances, the 30-day thing will be waived, but once we codify that fee structure, that land use application rule, they'll have to come in 30 days before the event.
That's a good, I'm looking forward to that, Alex. Bruce?
Oh, I was just sort of reiterating what Alex said, except just to voice I'm in favor of what Aaron proposed to approve these things and let the staff figure it out. But I want to voice my irritation that the recreation department of the town can't even come to us a few days ahead of time to give our staff the time they need to figure things out. And Winterfest has been scheduled for quite a long time, so it's not like they didn't know about this stuff. I have voiced my irritation.
An application too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just education. I think a lot of entities don't realize that there's a land use application process. And a lot of towns don't require that. A lot of many towns don't have this process. So in other towns, you can just organize a walk and go, and there's no restrictions to it. Whereas in Amherst, we ask that people do this. And part of the reason for that is because the conservation lands are so heavily used. So it gives us a sense, like if we've got 3 weddings proposed at Mount Pollux the same day at the same time, we can kind of let people know, hey, you might have some conflicts here. So that's kind of the reason why we do it, just to keep track of what's going on and how the frequency of use.
All right. Alex?
Yeah, 2 things. One's in jest. Bruce, I missed the meaning of what you said. How do you really feel about that? Second, if we allow hunting, including archery, which means the release of arrows on conservation land, and we don't restrict where that happens, I think Dave would have a hard time telling somebody they can't have archery on land use, as a land use.
All right, thanks, Alex. All right, so I think we need to vote on these. Aaron, do we vote on them one by one, or do we vote on, yeah, right, each one?
So one of them's already occurred, so there's nothing, the CLU 25-1, you don't have to take any action on that. The 2 that were submitted by the Recreation Department, so CLU 25-2 and CLU 25-3, those are the ones that I would recommend that the commission approve, subject to Dave's review and approval.
So moved.
Yep, all right, both in one motion. Is that good?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so we have a motion,
I did. I moved what she just said.
and we're looking for
I'll second.
a second. Bruce with a motion, Jason with a second for approval of these CLU 25-2 and CLU 25-3, with the condition that they discuss things with Dave, subject to Dave's approval as well. Jason?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Rachel?
Hi.
And I'm an aye.
Great.
We move now to the public hearings. Our first, I can't see what time it is.
7:43.
All right, thank you. First, is a notice of intent, Tetra Tech on behalf of ASD Shutesbury, Mass, Solar LLC for the construction of, I don't want to keep reading the rest of it, but, this has been withdrawn. Is that,
Yes, the first notice of intent for the notice of intent for Shutesbury Road was withdrawn.
okay, so, shall I? Let me read, about the hearings before we go too far into this. I'm sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself here. We're gonna have some hearings, the general procedures for, fairness, to all the applicants in these hearings, are following. The meetings are dedicated, 20 minutes apiece. 5 minutes, from the staff, 5 minutes, as a presentation by the applicants. 5 minutes for public comment or 2 minutes per person, and then, 5 minutes for the, commission. Any, materials that are, submitted for applications need to be, submitted by the Wednesday prior to, the meeting, and by close of business on that day, for that matter. Just be sure that all presenters state clearly their, your name and address of the project, as well as, preferred pronouns. Same for the public. And then, I think I think that's about it. You see the rest of the, Robert's Rules of Order. If we need to, remind folks, we'll do that, but, I think we're gonna do fine. All right, so that was the first hearing that we had was, withdrawn. Second notice of intent, by Goddard Consulting on behalf of, U Drive Amity LLC for the demolition of 2 existing structures and associated infrastructure and construction of a proposed mixed-use development consisting of a building with associated parking, landscaping, and stormwater improvements at 25 through 35 University Drive and 422 Amity Street. Map 13B, lots 18, 27, 28, and 54. Aaron?
So Andre, I did add the hearing call, because I realized when I sent the meeting packet that I didn't include that. So you don't have to reread the description of the site, but if you could just read the hearing call and then I'll pull in the applicant.
Thank you. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of wetlands as most recently amended, and Article 3.31, Wetlands Protection under the Town of Amherst General Bylaws.
Thank you. And that's, we have 2 additional hearings that are going to be opening tonight. So I added those for the other ones as well. I'll
Okay.
remind you when those come up. So I'm just pulling in Tom, Barry. I don't know if you guys had additional folks showing up tonight. No, okay.
Nope. You're stuck with us.
So I'll give a quick update and then go on from there if that's okay, Andre.
Yes, please.
Okay. So just to give a quick reminder to folks, this application did come through a couple months ago, and we did a full review of the project back when it was originally submitted. We reached the point of closing the public hearing, which we did. We'd kind of, I think, covered the bases in terms of revisions and mitigation and everything. We closed the hearing, and then shortly after the hearing was closed, the applicant became aware of the need for some revisions on the proposal. So at that time, they basically requested that we not issue the order of conditions and reopen the hearing so that the revised plan could be incorporated into the original order of conditions. The revised plan came in. I've had a chance to look it over. I'm satisfied with the stormwater management and just general design. I have an order of conditions which has been drafted. I think the last issues that we were sort of ironing out today were just the mitigation planning. And I did put correspondence in the folder that could shed some light on that. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on it, but just to say that the mitigation plan that the applicant put together is pretty substantial. So in the original application, there was going to be the full mitigation package plus an additional 21 and change $1,000 going into the in lieu fee account. With the revisions, there was a reduction in the proposed alteration of buffer zone and also an increase in the proposed mitigation. So when I ran the calculations, it basically put us at a point where I wasn't comfortable recommending in lieu fees being contributed to based on the application. I did speak with both Michelle and Andre about this because Michelle had expressed some concern that you know, some of the mitigation is proposed inside the stormwater structures, which is being counted towards mitigation. And the stormwater structures technically could be redeveloped. They could, they're going to need to be maintained over the years. And so she felt like those numbers shouldn't have been included there. And so my suggestion to sort of try to get this approved, because I think we're at the point where I would recommend that, is the areas other than stormwater, so excluding the stormwater, but basically bounding and signing the remainder of the mitigation areas on the site, and also incorporating the balance of wetlands and buffer zone on the site as part of the overall mitigation. And that if we include that as an overall package, I would feel very comfortable recommending that the commission approve that tonight. And I did talk to Tom about that, and he was comfortable with that, subject to there being some flexibility relative to the type of bounding that's installed so that it's, not, ugly. Basically, we want it to look kind of nice on the landscape. And also that the signage, that there's some flexibility with the signage so that they can basically create something that's, again, somewhat aesthetically pleasing, facing the development. So that's my update, and happy to answer questions on it.
Thanks, Aaron. So as long as there's some kind of bounding in the mitigation areas and also just kind of a reset on what we're accepting as mitigation versus what the proposition was initially.
Right. And so just to clarify, the order of conditions that I drafted does not include those additional conditions. Those were things that we were sort of discussing late this afternoon, but I do have language that I incorporated some suggested language in the email that I put in your packets. And it's basically that so like the planting areas, with the exception of the stormwater, would be bounded and signed to basically indicate that it's a mitigation area and not for future disturbance. And then we would also do the same thing with the balance of the wetlands and the buffer zone on the subject parcels, so that basically that entire piece is considered mitigation as part of this project. And then that would be the mitigation package.
Okay, thanks. We'll have the applicants present here in a minute. If we have questions, straight to Aaron, we can attend to them. Alex?
I have a question for Aaron. Does bounding include not using the mitigation area for snow storage? I know bounding means a fence or rocks or curbing or something, but is there a provision in there that they would not use the mitigation area for snow storage?
Yeah, and remind me, Tom, if it's okay, Andre, can you remind me where the snow storage was on this site? Were you guys proposing to put it on the southern boundary? And is that proposed in the mitigation area?
Yeah, let me, if I can share my screen, it's probably simple enough just to show you.
Yes,
If you want to enable me.
enable that,
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks. All right, let me,
By the way, welcome Barry, welcome Tom.
thanks for having us. And I'll give a higher level view after, but let's answer the direct question first. So snow storage here on this southerly side, some snow storage here, and then some snow storage in this area here. You know, when you look at, to kind of take a step back, when you look at the square footage and the density of plantings in the mitigation area, while this might, I guess, technically, you know, be in the mitigation area, I don't know that it's a significant amount. And I think, Aaron, your condition, the way I read it was, and there's no development happening anywhere else. And, you know, we're bounding in the way that we thought of bounding, Alex, was, and Barry and I have to talk about it. You know, I don't know that it's a fence. It might just be, it'll be something aesthetically pleasing in certain areas, whether it's like a 4x4 with some sort of emblazing on top of it. But just something that, I mean, this is going to be an expensive project, a new project. It's going to be something that I think complements the design. So to answer the question directly, yes, snow storage in these areas here.
Okay, yeah, I was not asking what the bounding will look like. I was more interested in that snow storage.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Alex. Bruce?
Well, I'm happy for the applicant to go ahead with any further presentation, and I'll ask my question at the end.
Thank you, Bruce.
Sure.
All right.
So if it's okay, I'll just go really high level, show you what was, show you what is, then land on a landscape plan just to kind of tie it all together. What I'll do is I will show you, see if I just show you the desktop, how that works. So if you can see right now, I've got a plan up which should show right in this area here, the two buildings. I'll zoom in a little bit. This is what was proposed. If you recall, we had this L-shaped building in the corner and then another building in this area, drive aisle all the way around, and there was a certain level of disturbance proximate to the wetlands. I'll go to this one first. This is an underlay plan. Hopefully you're seeing it. This shows what the proposed building will look like. And if you can see in blue, we have what was proposed. So that was kind of like iteration one was in blue. So you'll see we were closer to the 30-foot buffer here. We extended further closer to the 50-foot buffer and had more pavement over in this area, et cetera. And then there was a building right here. And then what we've gone to is just this single building, and we extended it a little bit here. And then we've essentially replaced the building with just parking, and we were able to pull the site in from the south. So we weren't disturbing as much of that southerly buffer area. And we were able to straighten out because we didn't have the turning issues of trying to get vehicles into these two buildings because there was some parking on the first floor. So we were able to pull in these compact spaces. I'll just scroll down so you can see, you know, entire site. We've got this willow here called out to remain, which is, I know, something we had talked about back on the site visit. And then this was, we've got these compact spaces are still proposed to be porous pavement. So this gives you a sense of the site, parking tucked behind. And then I will go to the landscape plan. And what I had done in an email to Aaron, and I don't have it here, was I showed side by side, above and below, what we had proposed to what is proposed. And there is a difference in the density, the number of plantings that we have, and really the area where those plantings are going to exist. And so, you know, based on the conversations we've had with Aaron, especially as of later this afternoon, you know, it's really just to keep this, you know, in its natural state, right? I mean, we have some stormwater maintenance to happen in certain areas to make sure that it's operating functionally. But, you know, the only mown turf is really on the eastern side, a little bit here, and a little bit around here, and then a little bit over here. Everything else is really like native, natural plantings of grasses. And we've got, you know, I won't go through them all, but, you know, 28 red maples, 9 river birches, 5 eastern red buds, 7 elms, 10 flowering dogwoods, 9 swamp oaks, 13 sweet gums, 14 linden. We've got, you know, sweet fern, sumac, etc. It's a if you look at it, it's a pretty intensive list. We're still having that box culvert here that we proposed before. We're still doing native rounded stones here on the bottom. Nothing of that has changed. If anything, we've added more plantings in these areas. And then we were able to add another internal parking island that we didn't have before. So this is really like, you know, high level, as Aaron said, reducing impact, increasing mitigation area, adding plants, densifying the plants, reducing the building area. We think, frankly, it's a better project. We did this because of the cost of steel, and this was even before the 25% tariffs went into place. So it's a little bit fortuitous that we started down this process before. It's going to be a wood building. It's going to be passive house, which has, it'll be one of the first in Amherst. It has a lot of neat design techniques to it to make it sustainable. So pretty exciting project. Happy to answer any questions, hoping to get approval this evening. We then have planning board next week and then ZBA in a couple of weeks after, and we'd like to get started shortly thereafter.
Thanks, Tom. I think, Bruce, if you want to ask a question now,
Sure.
you can. We'll...
My question is for Aaron. For the orders of condition, the long, many faceted aspect of the orders of condition, are there any points in this that are different than the orders of conditions from the first round?
Yes, so the first round, we never even got to the point of really drafting orders of conditions. Tom and I had some back and forth about special conditions, so I was moving toward drafting one. And what I did this time around was incorporate all of the conditions that Tom and I had originally discussed, but I also incorporated some additional conditions as well. So it's a pretty comprehensive order.
It certainly is. Reading through it is, if every project had to do even half of these things, it would be wonderful. And this is, from my point of view, without, I mean, Jason and others can comment more on the stormwater parts, but it felt like this is very comprehensive. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce and Aaron. Did we have any members of the public who are looking to speak on this? I don't have access to, since I had an issue with getting in. I can't see who's in the.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand, but if a hand goes up, I'll let you know right away.
Okay. All right. So rest of the commissioners, feel free if you have any questions. I mean, what I'm seeing is that the area, the affected area was reduced. There's more mitigation than there was before. And you're looking to bound the mitigation areas. So I think that's pretty good. I see a question from Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, this is sort of tangential, but still connected to what we do for a living here. Either Tom or Barry, will there be any outdoor common area for people to use?
Through the chair. Yeah, I'll pull up this plan. As big of a site it is, it's a little bit of a tighter site. We will have, and this doesn't have it totally updated. I can probably, why don't I stop sharing? I'll actually show the most recent site plan.
The reason I ask is because I was just curious if they might set up chairs in the mitigation area and picnic tables on their own and.
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me get the site plan up so you can see. All right, I'll show you.
Gary's giving us his best blank stare. He hasn't moved.
It's actually a cardboard cutout of Barry. No. So here, these couple of areas, we've got benches. We're gonna have some benches and some programming over here. This is gonna all grow up. This is the type of vegetation that's gonna be there. We're not gonna maintain it. It is going to be natural, right? So I don't think it is conducive to having people set up any sort of chairs in there because of what is going to be growing like in those areas. And here there's going to be a topographical difference because of the basins that are being created in this area, same thing. There's quite a topographical difference between the upper and then the lower piece. If people want to set right along the road, I suppose they can, but the idea is to program these spaces, and then there's going to be some really great interior common amenity spaces, fitness center, like a cafe lounge, indoor trash room, indoor bike room, really trying to utilize the area. PVTA bus stop right here to allow folks to get on the bus and go other places. So
you might mention that we do have outside decks on these for people to get outside, both in common and some directly connected to their units.
yeah, that's a great point. Let me, if you'll, I always like the opportunity to show these off because I think they're terrific. If you'll indulge me for a moment, I will. So here you should be able to see what the proposed building is going to look like. And so in this area here, you've got your seating, outdoor seating. The back of that curved wall is going to have seating as well. You can see some of the planting areas. Some of these will have, like this one has some exterior space. Top of some of these also have exterior spaces. And these are just other renderings of what you're going to see once the project is built with. Right, so here's a good example of what that vegetation is going to look like. Same thing, seating area out towards the front, the new roundabout, seating area and roundabout, that back area with the seating, and then this is what an interior unit's going to look like. And we've got floor plans that show essentially when we get to the top floor, you'll see that there are outdoor spaces for some of the units, outdoor spaces here, outdoor spaces. We avoided putting outdoor spaces at the 4 bedrooms, just assuming that they may be students. While we trust them, I don't think we wanted to give them too much outside space. So that's like, just to get into what are people going to have when they're here. That's a little bit of a
Thank you.
view.
Yeah. And if I could, I have a question for Barry or Tom. And it's not as close to what we do, but at one point you said that your biggest limitation was parking. And I noticed there's a lot of parking. Maybe there's the same number of spaces there was before. But when you have reduced or changed your building, do you have the same number of units?
No, so we went from 85 units, 250 beds, and I want to say 183 parking spaces to 78 units, 225 beds, and 160 parking spaces. So we've reduced the number of parking spaces. We have about the same ratio as we did before. The way the parking will likely work is, there's about 12,000 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. And so I think what we do is we dedicate one space per unit of residential for the studios 1s and 2s, and then 2 spaces for the 3s and 4s. That eats up 120 spaces. We have about 40 spaces left for the commercial use. Commercial, we use those during the day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. Those will open up for residential. So it's like, this is I think we found that balance of a suitable amount of parking, suitable buildings, unit styles, bedrooms, etc. So like we really tried to strike that balance given PBTA bus stop right
Yep.
there, bike
Yep.
room, bike storage, etc.
So that parking is all on the mitigation side, the buildings on the street side, and the parking is going to have a lot of runoff. So you and Erin have, she said she's comfortable with the storm water drainage, but could you just quickly, for me, perhaps others, just go talk to us about where the runoff from the parking lot goes?
Sure, I'll bring up the grading and drainage plan. So you see it here, and it really is, proprietary. It's catch basins and it's hydrodynamic separator before there's any discharge into any of these stormwater features here, right? So you can see the piping, so rooftop clean comes from here. Manhole does a 90, discharges into this basin, so that's all clean. Same thing from this side, from this part of the roof, drains into this, I'll call it just a basin, it's a bioretention area. And then you've got the piping system from the parking lot, so you've got catch basins in here. I want to say, I thought maybe there's another one that's a drainage manhole here. And then we've got some perforated pipe here for a bioretention area. And then we've got a discharge into this stormwater basin. We've got another catch basin from these pervious, and then they ultimately make their way into this stormwater basin here. So everything's collected, treated, and then ultimately discharged.
Yeah, so I'm going to rely on Erin and Jason on this. So if we get a 3-inch rainstorm, we'll be okay, I assume.
Yeah, I think we model up to the 100-year storm to make sure that
That
it's fine.
happens every 4 years now.
So the 4-year storm.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I'm Tom. Erin?
I just wanted to piggyback on Alex's comment to say I did check the TSS worksheets, and I would say everything met or exceeded the current stormwater standard, with the exception of there was one that was like 88% TSS removal, so it was like off by 2%. But for a redevelopment site, I am pretty happy with the overall design. I think every single suggestion that I made was incorporated, so I'm happy with the outcome of the stormwater management on it.
Thank you, Erin. If we don't have any other questions, I think we would be ready for a motion. Is that,
Yeah, Andre, could I just ask for some clarification on where we are?
Absolutely.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that Erin drafted some conditions. There was conversations between Erin and Tom this afternoon, and some new conditions were drafted that we haven't, I don't think, had a chance to look at. But they're in a hurry to move this along with tariffs coming on steel. And I can't believe there isn't a place in the United States where you can't buy steel. But anyways, so are we being asked to approve this even though we haven't had a chance to look at all the conditions and just leave it to staff to work it out?
So the order of conditions is drafted in the folder. It's, I would say, pretty comprehensive. There were 2 additional conditions which were added today based on conversations that I had with the applicant and with Michelle and with Andre, which were the incorporation of I'm just grabbing those. And I did also post the conditions in the meeting packets that we post online so that members of the public could view that document as well. But I'm happy to pull it up if we want to take a quick look at it. But the additional conditions that were discussed today, which were sort of the last minute additions, were that all areas of mitigation planting associated with the order of conditions, except for stormwater features, are bounded and signed, and that there's an ongoing condition in the order of conditions that these designated mitigation areas will not be altered in perpetuity and shall be maintained in their natural condition in perpetuity. And then the second piece of that was in the approved mitigation plan associated with the approval, the balance of the wetlands and buffer zones on the parcel subject to this application will be included in the overall mitigation package, and that those areas will also be signed and bounded as part of the order of conditions, so that no future alteration occurs in those areas in perpetuity. So those were in addition to the order that I had already previously drafted.
Thank you.
That's big. Any other questions?
I'm ready to proceed.
Okay, we need a motion to close the public hearing and an order of conditions for 25 through 35 University Drive and 422 Amity Street. DEP number 089-0744. Approval includes the standard boilerplate conditions under both the Mass Wetland Protection Act and Wetland Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31 and regulations, as well as special conditions. That would be the motion. Oh,
So moved.
I don't think you can pose a motion as chair, but so moved.
So who's making the motion?
looking for someone to make it.
Hey, Alex.
I'll move to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 25 through 35 University Drive and 422 Amity Street, DEP number 089-0744. Approval includes the standard boilerplate conditions under both the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31 and regulations, as well as special conditions.
Second.
Yep, Jason with a motion, Alex with a second.
Thank you.
Alex. I'm sorry, someone
Yes,
just,
thank you. I got it.
okay, Alex.
Second.
You got it?
Aye.
Let me know.
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Rachel,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. And yeah, I was not making that motion. I was reading it out so that you guys wouldn't have to.
All right.
Thank you
I
very
got
much.
it twice.
And Tom, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Aaron, great job as always.
Thank you all
Yeah.
for your time.
I'm sorry we don't have you up for another one, Tom.
We'll be back.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Nice to see you, Barry.
Third hearing is amended notice of intent, WDA Design Group. Do we need to make a call for this?
Yes, yep, I'll pull that
Can
up for
pick it
you.
up for me, please, Aaron?
Yep.
Right. All right, this hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of wetlands, as most recently amended in Article 3.31 Wetlands Protection under the Town of Amherst General Bylaws. This is an amended notice of intent by WDA Design Group, Inc., on behalf of Montague Road Solar LLC for the maintenance of an existing wooden corduroy bridge crossing and the installation of a beaver deceiver device between two existing ponds at 285 Sunderland Road, map 2C, lot 3. Aaron, would you like to introduce us?
Sure. So just to give a little bit of background, there was a previous order of conditions where there was a solar facility which was installed between Montague Road and Sunderland Road. That was prior to me working for the town. Then I would say 2019 to 2020, approximately, we had actually, maybe it was issued in 2022. There was an application for some additional batteries related infrastructure on the site and some underground directional drilling for conduit, which the commission previously approved. This site has had some issues with stormwater on the road, and so I think this project is addressing that, as well as the existing timber mats which go over between the two ponds is deteriorated, and there's been ongoing issues with beavers on the site. And so I think this application is trying to sort of address all of the outstanding issues in one shot. I have an order of conditions drafted. It's posted in the meeting packet. It's posted online. I've reviewed it with the applicant. The applicant gave some feedback, which I have no problem with the applicant's edits, which are also in your folder. I think this is a relatively straightforward application, and I'm ready to move forward on this tonight if the commission is. And I will bring Brian in so that he can present as well.
That's the site where the Fish and Wildlife Service wanted to put their headquarters.
I don't know why, Ryan, I'm having trouble promoting you. It's kind of weird. I'm gonna just click allow to talk and see if that, oh, there he goes. Okay.
Can I get the last name and address?
Well, welcome, Brian. Can you hear us? Brian, if you have a way to hit the button on the bottom left of your screen for video, now you just muted yourself. If you can hit that audio back on again, you'll unmute, and then maybe we can hear you. Oh, I could see you. Bottom left, there's a little there you go. Now you're unmuted.
Yep. Yeah, I hit it a couple times. This thing's not happy tonight.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, Brian. If you could state your name, last name, and who you work for, please.
Brian Waterman from WDA Design Group in Westboro, Massachusetts. We're here on behalf of Montague Road Solar for the, as Aaron outlined, and correctly so, Aaron, that was 22 when they did the directional boring and the additional reclosers in the pad. And so that order is valid through well, April 26th it would be, but of this year, but I think under the Permit Extension Act, it's got another 2 years. But they would like to form the maintenance on the timber mats, which, although we had our site work Monday, it's kind of hard to see how beat up they are because of the snow and ice cover. Repair some of the gravel that's just, over time has been worn with a more stable crushed stone. And as you outlined, there's been an ongoing beaver issue. They had a licensed trapper. go out and remove 4 to 5 beavers during the trapping season this November, December, I guess it was. And but we'd like to, during the course of repairing the portion of gravel drive and removing the timbers, would be to put in a beaver deceiver pipe with a cage on the northerly side and run that flex pipe, connecting it down to the southern pond, and keep the water levels at the record elevation, which was like as Andre and I discussed the other Monday, elevation 160 for the northerly pond and the lower pond at 157. And then that will allow for the not to have the overtopping and the extra wear and tear on that portion of gravel drive, as well as the timber mats. And then hopefully not have to worry about beaver intrusion or control. With the cage and the submerged pipe, it'll maintain that water level, and it'll hopefully be the last time we have to do this kind of repair, except for maybe some just general ongoing maintenance that's typical for any site like this. But there's not a lot of vehicle traffic. The farmer does use this pathway a couple times a year, and then the solar company uses it for if there's an emergency access that's required. And it appears they are usually utilizing a company that's doing the sheep mowing. So they bring the sheep in and then they go in and graze around the panels. So as Aaron said, we'd be doing new erosion control barriers along each side. It'd be a fairly quick process to get all this done. It'll be done in a drier period. Aaron had asked for kind of a scope on if we need to do a dewatering. So we submitted what they would do for that, which would be typically a bucket with holes drilled in it. You put a submersible pump in that, put that in the north pond so it's not sucking up sediment or generating a lot of sediment. Pump that through a fire hose to a silt bag, and then we would outlet it through the grass area on the side and let that trickle down to the pond, so you have a controlled outlet that's filtered and can be controlled. We're hoping we don't need that. It's fairly shallow where they need to reach in, or someone will go in waders or a John boat to put the cage in. And then they would remove the old timbers, lay in the new pipe, the new larger stone, and then back their way out. So it's fairly well regulated in an area that's already, historically been maintained. So that's kind of the general scope, and I'll turn it over to you guys if you'd like.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Just if you can address or clarify the water bar type structures that you're going to be putting up top as well.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you. Yes, Aaron, I can't call the plans up. My computer is not sharing right now. I don't know if you have it, but
yep.
To the north side, as you come in the gravel drive, there's a gated entry into the solar farm area. And within the gravel drive, historically, we had some water bars to direct runoff. Yeah, I don't know if you can zoom in there, but
My gosh,
yeah, that's central.
super touchy.
Yeah, at least yours is functioning. So the water bars are cut into the
That looks good.
gravel drive. It's a very hard packed gravel drive where Aaron is outlining right there. It's outside the buffer zone, but it does direct stormwater flows. In the past, when the water bars have gotten filled with sediment, it's allowed some of the water to flow down the pathway. so this is we've added additional ones. This would direct the water from going down the path into the adjacent stone channel, which is now, it's almost hard to see the stone because there's some vegetation. So it's actually a good filtering mechanism. And the water bottles will take out velocity, and putting them at those 50-foot intervals, it breaks that flow area into much smaller amounts, and as well as takes out the velocity and the chance for additional erosion. And then we put it into that northerly channel, and it goes down into the existing sediment basin. So that's the other scope that Andre pointed out. So
Thanks, Brian.
thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, you bet. How about the public? Are we seeing anyone, any questions from the public before we go back to the commissioners?
There's no
No.
hands raised right now, yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Just as a little bit of a what I saw, and Rachel was there too. The ties look pretty beat up, which is kind of a surprise for the amount of time they've been there. But they look to be 8x8s.
Yep.
And then the gravel does seem to need a little retouch there as well.
Yeah.
That's the extent of my expertise and what I saw there. I don't know if Rachel, if you have anything else to add there. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, no, this all makes sense. I guess the only questions I had were of the applicant, just to describe a little bit more about the interaction with the beavers and what time of year those actions took place, and what that procedure will look like going forward with the commission.
I'm sorry, Rachel, were you asking when the beaver trapping occurred?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was during the trapping season this November and December is what I was under the, I might even have it in this. Yes, he's started the beginning of November. And the permitted trapping season is November 1, 2024 through April 15th of 2025. And at the time of the writing of the application, he had trapped 4. I think he might have gotten 1 more in December, but there were at least 4 removed during the permitted trapping season. The beaver trapper was Tom Gravel of Beaver Specialist LLC. And he would also be the person constructing the steel cage that goes around the beavers.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else? I found it to be fairly straightforward, what I saw. So if we don't have any further questions, we are looking for a motion, and I'll just let Aaron put it up, and whoever wants. I see a question from Bruce.
I'll move it. I move to close the public hearing and issue an amended order of conditions for 285 Sunderland Road, DEP 089-0698. Approval includes all the standard boilerplate and special conditions under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31 and regulations from the original order of conditions, plus additional special conditions under both the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31 and regulations.
Second.
So we got Bruce with a motion and Alex with a second. Alex.
Aye.
Bruce.
Aye.
Rachel.
Hi.
Jason.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So looks like you're all set, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Next, we have the fourth hearing of the night. Shall I read the intro or the call?
We don't need the call for the Wendell Wetland Services.
All right, this is Wendell Wetland Services on behalf of Pham Tao for the construction of a single-family home driveway and septic system within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at Old Montague Road, map 2A, lot 36, driveway and lot 36. Aaron, do you want to
Yeah, so the applicant requested a continuance on this. I did ask some questions about the plan, which I think there's some plan revisions that are currently underway. Mostly, it was unclear to me. There was only one set of contours on the plan, and so I was asking, are these existing or proposed? Trying to get a sense of whether there's a change in grades going on with the proposed work, and also the foundation was right up against the limit of work line on this one, and so I asked them to clarify, because typically you need 10 to 15 feet around a foundation for grading purposes. So they're working on some revisions to adjust the plan accordingly, and also right now with the snow cover, we really can't verify the wetland delineation. So this will be continued if the commission issues the motion to February 26th at 7:40.
Thanks, Aaron. So we have, are we expecting the, any further presentation?
No, not tonight.
Should we check to see if there is any public comment on it? If you are in the public and you have any questions on this or have any comments, please raise your hand. Going once. Going twice. Okay, we're looking for a motion to continue the public hearing to February 26, 2024 at 7:40 PM.
I moves.
Rachel with a motion,
Second,
Jason with a second. Jason,
aye.
Rachel? Rachel has
Aye.
thumbs up and an eye. And Bruce,
Aye.
Alex? I don't think Alex is there. I'm an aye.
That's enough for a quorum, the four of us.
Thank you, Bruce. We move now to. Oh, there are two hearings, number four, so to hearing number
Oh,
5.
sorry about that.
Okay, I know you're busy. All right, let's see. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, an act relative to the protection of wetlands, as most recently amended in Article 3.31, Wetlands Protection under the Town of Amherst General Bylaws. We've got SWCA here on behalf of PV Squared Solar for a proposed solar canopy over an existing parking lot with the electrical service upgrade and so on, and the electrification and mechanical systems in the existing building at 742 Main Street. Aaron, did you want to begin this one?
Yes. So this applicant has been in touch with me for several months now. It's the 742 Main Street. It's the Jewish Center on Main Street. They have an existing parking area in the rear of the property, and they are proposing to put solar panels and associated conduit and transformer, as well as utility pole associated with the project. So I've worked with them to basically, guide them through the permitting process. And I think this is what I would describe as a really great project. I like to see solar being put over parking areas. So I think it's a really sustainable project. we met with them on site, definitely had a couple suggested conditions. So I did draft an order, which is in your packets, and I'm in favor of the commission approving this tonight. I think the big issues were, number one, snow storage needs to be relocated to another location. Right now it's being pushed into the wetland buffer. And I suggested that they put it on the vegetated buffer to the north that's not directly in the wetlands. And then let me think. Oh, there was the drip edge. So the panels are being placed basically right along the border of a paved driveway and a paved parking area and a dirt parking area. And so one of the conditions I am suggesting to the commission to add is to add some stone armoring under the remaining panels to protect the drip edges from any scour or erosion or sedimentation happening. So that was an additional condition. There was also so on this one, because it's so simple and the work is expected, the duration is so short from start to finish, I don't think that there's really any need for like an erosion control monitor to be out there. So what I did was, in the order, I incorporated some additional conditions for at the kickoff, when I come out to do the erosion control inspection, getting a timeline for completion. And then when the project is completed, I would come out and do a post-work inspection just to verify that the site is stable. And then when everything is grown during the growing season, I could come out and approve the erosion controls coming out once everything stabilization has been fully established. So I kind of worked those conditions in, as well as just some standard boilerplate conditions associated with the project. So it's a relatively simple project with a relatively simple order of conditions. And that's what I have. If it's okay, I'll pull in the applicant. And I believe it's Matt, so I'm going to promote Matt to a panelist. If there's anybody else oh, Meredith, got it. Okay.
Welcome, Matt, and welcome, Meredith. When you speak, if you don't mind, starting out by stating your name and last name and who you work for.
Yep, Matt Valier, PV Squared, in regards to 742 Main Street, the Jewish community of Amherst.
Thanks, Matt. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm happy to just show a couple quick exhibits of the project. I think Aaron set it up well. So we're looking at adding a parking canopy over the existing parking lot. It's 110 kilowatts DC. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So 110 kilowatts DC. This required a new electrical service going in. Oh, sorry, it's a little wonky. So we are including a new utility pole required by Eversource on Main Street, trenching for underground conduit to a new transformer location right here, and then DC conduits from the parking canopy over to that new transformer location, and then a little bit of extra conduit work to refeed some electrical panels on the east side of the building. As Aaron said, there's a transition from paved to gravel right along the center line of these two existing medians here. The low side, the drip edge, will drip onto the asphalt. That as we discussed yesterday, there's no roof deck under this system, as opposed to some systems that have a continuous roof deck. So that means we will see dripping between the rows of panels. So I think that's why Aaron was recommending the stabilization underneath that area. And Aaron, I already reviewed the snow storage with the client. They really have no problem with that. We haven't discussed the gravel area, but that makes sense to me. It seems like a maintenance thing that the client would have to do at some point in the future anyways. And then I think I can turn it over to Meredith for more, wetland flagging, notice of intent filing type stuff. Meredith, if you have anything to add. Do I have to stop? Or, I'll leave my screen share up if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be
that's
great.
helpful.
Hi, everyone. Meredith Bornstein, SWCA Environmental Consultants. We filed the notice of intent on behalf of PV Squared. And yeah, Aaron pretty much covered everything. I mean, it's really a buffer zone only project. It's a developed parking lot and we're not changing anything. The stormwater is all going to be the same, going to the same location. And so it's really, yeah, it's a win-win project. I don't know if folks have questions about wetlands. We're not asking for the wetland boundaries to be certified or anything during this notice, for this notice. Yeah, it's a pretty simple project for once.
Great. Thanks, Meredith and Matt. I think one of the things that I'm not sure if it was clear or not from when Aaron was speaking earlier, but one of the things that that we can't do during this is actually confirm the boundaries. So that'll be written into any conditions, or it'll essentially we're not going to be confirming them because it's just not the right timing. Having a canopy with your solar, I think that's an ideal situation. But in terms of the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's wetlands regulations, if you guys have any other questions, it looks like Bruce has one. I don't see any. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I went over to the site and looked at it, and what's been described conforms with what I saw. And yes, the snow plowing issue should get addressed, and my understanding is it will be. I did wonder about the enclosed wetland that where there's driveway around a wetland, and just curious if that if maintaining that in its wetland state is a problem.
Thanks, Bruce. Matt or Meredith?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that, Matt, if you want.
Yeah, that's
thank
great.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so it's our understanding that that's actually a stormwater basin, and we did flag it because it really hasn't been maintained, but it is part of the constructed stormwater system on the property. So it's one of those funny things like
Is that in the conditions that it needs to be maintained?
Yes, so I did incorporate in the order of conditions a condition that the stormwater system should be maintained per the DEP Best Management Practice Manual. So yeah, I mean, I think that's another piece of this. I don't know when that basin or system was constructed and the associated operation and maintenance associated with it, but I did try to roll that maintenance requirement in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think the key pieces are functionality of the culverts and functionality of the catch basins. And I did take a quick look inside, and a couple of them had snow in them, so it was a little difficult to see what was going on. But I didn't, what I have seen at times inspecting catch basins is like they're full of sediment, like up to the top, or like really, really full. They're clear that they've never been maintained. These culverts were not looking like that at all. They were, the catch basins looked like a standard catch basin that wasn't full of sediment. So that tells me that, either they've been maintained or they've been functioning in such a way that, there's not an accumulation of material in them. So that's a good thing. And, beyond that, they're not changing the stormwater management system or adding impervious surface in association with the project. So it's a little difficult to require any adjustments to the stormwater management plan. So I did just incorporate that condition as sort of a fail-safe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Well, if we don't have any other questions and the public doesn't have anything, we're looking for a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 742 Main Street DEP number 089-0748. Approval includes the standard boilerplate conditions under both Mass Wetlands Protection Act and Wetlands Protection Town of Amherst General Bylaws, Article 3.31 in regs, as well as noted special conditions. Looking for
So
a
moved.
So moved.
Bruce with the motion. Do we have a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
Jason with a second. Jason,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Rachel,
I just want to confirm, so we are noting in the order of conditions that we are not confirming the delineation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So, thank you, Meredith, and thank you, Matt. It looks like a wonderful project.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Good luck
Thank
with
you.
all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Alright,
good night.
take care.
Right.
Thank you.
And with that, we're looking at monitoring reports, public comment topics. And there are some requests for a certificate of compliance. Is that correct?
Yes, yep. So we did receive this within the last 48 hours. There was 2 requests for certificate of compliance. This is another similar situation where an order of conditions was recorded on individual condo units. And so I would say this is what I would describe as an administrative release. The order of conditions is also recorded on the property parcel itself, which is really what it should be tied to. So there are 2 condominiums that are being sold within the 664 Main Street condos, and the applicant is just looking to release those 2 condos from the order of conditions, which I have no problem with us doing tonight as an administrative action.
Okay. Any questions?
We're talking about moving on the 664 Main Street, right?
Yes.
I make a motion.
Yeah, please.
I move to issue complete certificate of compliance for 664 Main Street condo units 48 and 49.
I second.
All right, Alex with a motion and Rachel with a second. Rachel,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So certificates of compliance will be issued. Anything on monitoring reports or anything else? Anyone from the public with hands up? Nope. Alex.
I have a question on one of the monitoring reports. I think it's, I assume we're not going to go through them individually, but I did have a question. I think it's Hickory Ridge, and there's in the report, it says that the gate has not been repaired, and if it functions and closes securely, will exclude turtles. And I didn't quite understand that. Can you clarify, Aaron, what is meant by that?
That's a good question, Alex. So Hickory Ridge has a turtle exclusion barrier around the entire perimeter, and the gate at the entrance also, it's like a metal bar essentially that goes along the base of the of the driveway. And so I know that it's in need of repair. It got hit by a truck and got damaged, and so it is in need of repair. I know that it can shut and lock, so it probably hasn't been repaired yet, but it should be repaired prior to the start of the turtle season. So that's definitely something. And you know, it's been an ongoing challenge with many applicants to get them to respond to these monitoring reports. So it is a constant housekeeping item in my job every time I get these reports to read them, to follow up with the applicant. Have you done this? You know, and then I get a second report a week later or 2 weeks later. It hasn't been done yet, and then I've got to follow up with them again. So these are examples of those, and I'll follow up on the gate. That was one that I
Because
missed. So
The report does say that it's been pointed out before.
okay,
And I think he does say still not fixed.
okay, I will
And then
highlight that.
when I read it, I realized it's not turtle season, but it will be coming up
Yeah.
in a couple months.
Yep.
And should be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great, Bruce?
Before we adjourn, I want to thank Jenny Calick for her consistent attention to our work. And she's in the public watching us and thinking carefully, I would assume, about what we're doing every time we meet. And I appreciate that.
Sounds good. Well, with that, if there are no other comments, questions, or anything, we would look for a motion to adjourn.
I have a question before we adjourn, or maybe everybody will go once we adjourn, but I have a question about our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite sure when the guest speaker will speak. I assume it's in the beginning, and how long. I thought half an hour is mentioned. Is that right?
Yes.
So that would follow director's report, land use report, and prior to any hearings, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Chris, and Rachel with a second. Rachel,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Alex.
Aye. I'm so glad Rachel didn't have to abstain.
Hey.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Good couple of weeks, and we'll see you on the
All
20th.
right.
Right?
Good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Night, Rachel.